This is the podcast for people who want to give back, get involved, and do more in their community, but aren't sure where to start. I'm Stephanie Dyer, and every week my co-host Courtney Dickey and I dig into the issues shaping how we give, why we give, and what actually makes a difference here in Central Texas. If you're new around here, Courtney is not just a co-host. She's a past president of Junior League of Austin. She sits on the board of our local Make-A-Wish. She's involved with Girl Scouts, CASA of Travis County. Her daughter is involved in Best Buddies. And there's so many more ways I'm sure she's involved that I'm forgetting, all while practicing law as in-house counsel at a tech company here in town. And while she's been involved in the nonprofit space for 20 years, I, much more recently, developed a desire to learn how to show up for my neighbors through the incredible nonprofit community I am discovering here in Central Texas. First, Courtney and I talk about how to think about giving back and making more people compelled to do so, and that is by making it fun. Connecting people, building relationships. We know that you can even scratch a competitive itch by participating, because what most people don't realize until they're already in it is that when you find the right nonprofit or the right crew to show up with you, you get more out of it than you put in. So we talk about showing up for others while making it a worthwhile experience for yourself, which brings me to the Saturday before Mother's Day. My family showed up to a monthly event at Bolden Acres in South Lamar. It was easy. There is no dress attire. The music is fun. Everyone's chatting. Some people have iced coffees. Others are getting their Saturday started with a beer. We sat down with people who've been coming for years. We built a sandwich assembly line and got to work at a table. The organization behind it, Tango Charities, and their flagship program is Feed the City, a monthly event where people bring ingredients together at a local venue here in Central Texas, that's South Austin, Central Austin, or Round Rock, and pack meals together for their neighbors experiencing food insecurity. I sat down with Will Mattingly, one of the Feed the City leaders here in Austin, to talk about how it all works and why it keeps growing. He owns the third Saturday at South Lamar, Bolden Acres. Go there. It is so much fun. All right, let's get into it and escape into a cause. Hey, Courtney.
Hey, Steph.
Let's talk about showing up for nonprofits and how sometimes it may come across as a chore or a responsibility versus something that's fun. I'm not saying that's always the case. You know, I hear the other moms at Young Men's Service League that are having to sometimes drag their boys. Thankfully, my son doesn't complain ever because he gets the look from mom and he knows.
Because he's perfect in every possible way.
Not quite, but he does get a little pressure. But giving back may feel like a chore sometimes because I think we've branded it like a chore sometimes.
Oh, I agree. I mean, you hear volunteer hours and shifts. And I mean, it's even a, if you will, charge that courts will put down on people. Like, you are forced to serve this many community service hours. So it's almost punitive, right? In that sense. So yeah,
Totally.
the labels we've given it have not really allowed it to shine as opportunity for doing good and having fun and enjoying yourself.
Completely agree. But I would even go further and say, like, maybe women are a little bit more maybe like organized and they see things like that better. Whereas like maybe men or young men don't want to be put into that box. And I only say that, and it's really it's not even a gender thing. It's actually just across the board who you are as a person. We talk all day about how students are different types of learners in class. And the reason I brought up the boy versus girl or woman versus man is because there's been studies that boys learn differently and don't do as well in a classroom setting as girls.
Well, and it is a little bit, I think, gender specific because so many studies have shown that females are more social creatures. And we tend to find packs and find people like us and seek that out more than men. And so I think we associate, or many women do associate, voluntary not with something that you have to do or something that you are forced to do, but something that gives you a social outlet. And so that certainly helps the outlook of philanthropic involvement when you have this social spin on it.
Yeah. And I think we all have different reactions to what encourages encourage us to give, whether that's our time or money. And an example was I was in Cabo in December, and we went to this man's condo to watch the football game that was in our condo area. And we don't know this guy, but we all came over, and it was someone we just met at the pool, and it was a gated community, and it was fun. We came over. There was a nonprofit ad that came up, and it was very sad and give money to the children. And he was like, oh, I hate this stuff. He was just like super vocal, and he's like, this doesn't make me feel good, you know? And I found it very interesting. Like, yeah, sometimes nonprofits don't cater to everyone and what speaks to you. And sometimes the thing that speaks to you is like entertainment, right?
Yeah.
Why are we on our social media all the time scrolling? It's because we're entertained.
Yes.
What could make us, and I just want to brainstorm with you, what could make people show up more that maybe historically have never showed up?
I know. Yeah. I mean, I think there are some organizations that do a really good job with this. And one that we've talked about locally is the Center for Child Protection. And they have Play Bingo, which is this massive event. Like it's 1,000 people in a room, and it is playing bingo. It is fun. It is loud. People take it seriously. There's a theme every year. You dress up in the theme. Your table dresses up. Booze is flowing. Disposed bingo cards are flying across the room. You usually have like a local celebrity who's up calling the balls as they come through the different machines. And so it's just this really exciting atmosphere. And I would go so far as to say the majority of people there have I wouldn't say no idea, because I do think they try to publicize it, but not really concerned that the fact that the money that they're spending is going towards a philanthropic cause, a really important one in Austin. They're just there because it's a good time. They love going. Every year it sells out. They want to be in the room. And so they're doing good without even thinking about it.
What bingo event is this again?
Center for Child Protection. It's always in the fall, and it's Play Bingo. And you should go. And if you want to go, listener, you have to get tickets early. It sells out every year. But also speaking to other audiences, like I love seeing organizations like the NFL, right? Because that is something that is in your face, obviously a massive name and brand, certainly has huge following. And they do things like October, Breast Cancer Awareness Month, everyone's wearing pink and they're talking about it. Or they have a massive relationship with Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and they are highlighting that. And so they know they're already going to have a captive audience. So let's also use it to do good and not just show sports. Like capitalizing on those opportunities where you can blend the two, I think is the best way to get people involved. And sometimes it's not just involved, just educated on what is out there. What are the problems that maybe you don't face, but you need to be aware that other people in humanity are facing. And if you are in that situation, you could be a beneficiary of those services. Here are some organizations that you could call.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. That bingo story reminds me of just marathons, right? A lot of these marathons, you are donating to charities in your marathon registration. Also, ACL. It's Austin Parks Foundation.
Yes.
So I've even, told Jaden, guess what? When you buy that ACL ticket, a portion of that goes to Austin Parks Foundation.
That's right.
So I think that's a good way. It's like forcing it, kind of adding it as a tax.
Yeah, because it's happening organically. You're already going to be there. You're going to pay for something. And so let's also add on this charitable component too. You hate to say that's like hiding the vegetables in the meal, but sometimes if that's the only way to do it, because we have to support the nonprofits, we have to show up from a community perspective for those that are suffering and to aid in the problems that government will not support with their funds or the private sector won't support. Somebody has to.
Yeah. So I think we just hit on 2 points. So one is make it social first, not cause first. So they go because they love the people or the event, right? Because most nonprofits accidentally lead with a mission when they really should lead, hey, here's who you'll meet. This is what our vibe is.
Right.
I think that's a big part of attracting more donors and more people, but also borrowing this treat yourself energy, which shopping and coffee work because they feel like it's a reward, right? You could do something like that with friends.
I love it. Gamifying it.
We have talked about that.
Yes. Amplify Austin was recently. And I've got 2 fundraising pages for 2 organizations that I'm on the board of. And I love like checking throughout the day to see that I'm still on the leaderboard.
Yeah.
Right? Like we talk about Strava. which is
Yes.
now an app that both you and I have for our running. And local legend, I was just running in North Carolina in a very, not rural, but it's a very quiet beach town that not many people go to. And I was like, I'm a local legend, which means nothing to anyone, by the way, except that I ran a far distance on this part of the island that people usually don't run on because they're enjoying the beach. But they gamified it. I feel excited, kept me running, kept me giving today because I want to be on that leaderboard. So people are competitive by nature. So lean into that.
Okay, again, everyone's different learners. Everyone has different motivations.
Yes, such a good point.
I love that. And for those that don't know, Strava is like the Map My Fitness or Map My Run. It's an app that will help you track your workouts, your runs, your skiing even.
And like when you have a personal best, and it'll give you AI. They have an AI solution in there that will look at all of your numbers and say, okay, here's what I learned from this race in comparison to your last 3 races.
It's great. And I've been using it to motivate me to work out for a long time. So we've talked about this.
Yes.
We should build an app.
Well, now you have all the tools at your fingertips to do that.
I do.
Isn't that crazy? I know. And I have a TikTok problem. And again, being at the beach this weekend, there was this precious bookstore and they talk about book talk, right? There's all these fill in the blank talks throughout TikTok, like whatever the topic is. And there should be a giving talk, right? Like, oh, giving talk. I saw that charity, or I saw that campaign, or I saw that game, or I saw that there was another race in town that supported a nonprofit. Like, how do you make that part of our everyday vernacular?
I would love a giving app where it was like social media.
Yeah.
It was like your Instagram, but it was for also tracking like Strava. So you could gamify it. You could share your good brag and feel good about it. Yeah, I like that. And then I do think that we've talked about this plenty of times, but not making it anonymous and making it like identity building. This is part of your identity. And that's what one of my friends, Katie, told me. She has 2 real littles. And when she heard about this podcast, she was like, man, I just really want my children to grow up knowing that they serve others or they give, like, what are those values? And so I do think it's important to not just make things as a parent anonymous and, we just show up to the gala. How do you actually show up and serve and be proud of it and not necessarily quiet about it because you want others to catch on, but also we do this with every other aspect of our life.
Yeah. No, we've definitely talked about that. Like, thank you to the anonymous donors out there, especially ones that are high wealth and can give significant life-changing donations. And it's hard for anyone to relate to that. Right? It's just not as influential as something kind of like the Amplify Austin campaign, which is a big deal in Austin because people give $5 here, $10 here. It's all we're talking about for 24 hours. People are seeing the leaderboards. Like, that gets people involved and engaged, whereas a headline of an anonymous donation and an amount that's completely unrelatable to everyone but the top 0.5% of the country. So I completely agree. Putting a name to it, making it more social, making it more personable, making it more relatable, approachable, that all makes a significant difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's go build that up because I'm in.
Let's do it.
All right. That is all for now. Thank you, Court.
Thanks, Steph.
Appreciate you.
Have a great day.
You too. We'll be right back. Escape into a Cause is sponsored by Nightlight Insurance Agency. You know how a nightlight gives you comfort and peace of mind in the dark? That's exactly what Nightlight aims to do. Guide you through life's uncertainties with personalized insurance for your home, auto, business, and more. Nightlight Insurance strives to provide its clients the best coverage at the best price without sacrificing on customer service. Here's what one client had to say. Nightlight was able to lower our car insurance significantly, answered all our questions, and returned our calls promptly. Very professional, would highly recommend. So it's no surprise Nightlight has a 5-star rating on Google. Nightlight also makes this podcast possible by covering production costs so all other sponsorship dollars and gifts can go directly to nonprofits and volunteers. And as part of their mission to give back, Nightlight proudly donates $1,000 to every nonprofit we interview. If you are a sponsor interested in giving back to our podcast, please find us on social media and let us know. Nightlight is an agency focused on personalized service and giving back. See how much you could save and how good it feels to have peace of mind by visiting nightlightinsurance.com. We've got Will Mattingly, one of the Feed the City leaders with Tango Charities. Hi, Will.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I'm excited to talk to you because I love that you are a volunteer, you're a leader, and you work full-time.
Yes, that is all true. I have a full-time 9 to 5 so I can pay my own bills, but I have enough time to also lead this charity event, which has honestly just been such a really cool thing in my life.
Yeah, very cool. I love to just mention that because I hope that there's some listeners out there that know that they don't have to completely dive into a nonprofit full time, that they can still give a piece of their life to it and do some good.
I love that. Actually, kind of my spiel to everyone whenever I first interact with them is I have this theory that humans are inherently good and a lot of people would love to give back to their community, but they don't know how to do it in an easy way that their schedule permits around their job and family and kids sports and all of these other things. And that's one thing I love about our event is it's really easy. It's not super time consuming and you can still immediately impact your community.
Let's get into it. What is Tango Charities?
So Nick Marino, the CEO of Tango, really great guy. He lives in the Dallas area and he really started the idea of Tango back in the early 2010s and then officially made it a nonprofit like with the 503c in 2020. But Tango's mission is really to beat hunger at the source and to bring that into your community while fostering a community between people who are actually helping with that outreach, right? And so Nick has brought together a lot of people with Tango. The main event that Tango runs is called Feed the City. I believe we have 52 right now throughout the country, largely in Texas, but we just opened one in New Jersey and one in San Diego and in Akron, Ohio. And so we kind of have them all over. And it's really been cool to see this grow over the time that I've been involved.
Yeah, so Nick is in Dallas, started in Dallas. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. And he actually has a pretty big home base there. So I don't know how many events we have in Dallas now around the Dallas area, but there's a lot of those kind of suburb towns. And I believe there's somewhere between 6 and 10 that are just in that Dallas area.
And Austin has 3, Austin and surrounding areas. Is that right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So I run the what we call Austin Zilker, which is the central Austin location at the Bolden Acres on South Lamar. And then we have one at the Bolden Acres on South Manchac, which is our kind of far south Austin to serve that community. And then there's one in Round Rock as well.
Great. And depending on the city, it's on a Saturday every month, one Saturday every month.
So yes, every Public Feed the City event is on a Saturday. First, second, third, or fourth, depending on your event. Mine is on the second. So Bolden Acres, South Lamar, every second Saturday at 10 a.m., a lot of people come together. And when I say a lot of people, it started with probably about a 60, 70. A couple of months ago, we had over 200. We served almost 5,400 meals. It took about an hour and a half.
With over 200 volunteers showing
With
up.
over 200 volunteers. I counted 206, but as people are walking around, it's hard to keep track of them all.
Yeah, that's amazing. So Court and I were just talking about how do we get more people engaged? How do we make, nonprofits and giving back, and how do we make it more fun and enjoyable? And there were examples like, okay, you can kind of like hide the vegetables, like bingo for the Child Protective Services. Everyone goes to have a really good time. They're not even thinking about giving back. We talk about socializing. We talk about going with a friend, right? And making it hey, I never see my friends. I work too much or whatever it may be. And then putting, your event, like a volunteer event together, donating blood, doing, many ways to become active and make it less of a chore. So I want to hear, because you seem to have a very well-attended event. How did you do it and what's the trick?
I'll start by saying I love your theory there. I like the kind of gamifying it and the way that I have had a good, well-attended event. I will take very little credit for it. There's a bit that goes into it though, right? I'm going to back up a little bit to kind of like what you were talking about, like going with a friend and making it fun. This is a chance every month that you get to see people you may not. And I had this weird, almost guilt that I was like getting a lot out of the feeding people portion, but I see family members like my aunt and uncle show up almost every month. My mom is hugely involved. My dad, whenever he's in town, is there. I've had friends pop out of the woodworks I hadn't seen since high school who saw it on social media and come. And we were at our awards ceremony for Feed the City. And Nick, he's our CEO, but he calls himself the Chief Hunger Officer. But he was saying, guys, like it is absolutely our mission is to feed as many people as we can and reduce the hunger problem in America. That is certainly our goal. But There is another impact that is positive, which is actually getting together and bringing community together and doing things that are positive, even just within the people who are serving. And so it honestly relieved a little bit of that guilt for me. And it actually allowed me to enjoy that I'm bringing in my friends. They get to do this. I know people who look forward to going, not just because of the event and the way that they're able to give back, but they also do get to see their family, friends. I've had people who have met who became friends through this and hang out all the time because of it. But back to your question about like how to bring a larger audience, and especially for these events, I do a few things to kind of gamify it. So I started a few months ago giving out just a Tango Charities t-shirt, which normally only myself and my leaders wear. But I started giving these out, and I give it to, it's called the Unsung Hero Award. So people show up, and these are the people most recently. Actually, my mother won it this last month, but it was
That's amazing, because it sounds like she's, around every month almost, right?
She's been to everyone except for, I think she had the flu 1 month, but she's there every time. She brings tablecloths and helps set up early, and if somehow we run out of Ziploc bags, she's the one to run to Walgreens or whatever. She does all these things. And so Shelly had won it the month before. And this is someone who really I just met through the event, but she shows up every time, like such a helper. And so these people that don't necessarily get like the recognition because they're not a leader in the org or anything like that, but this would not run smoothly without it. I give that Unsung Hero Award. So I know I already have a couple people who I have in mind for this next month, but I think that really brings a really good involvement to the team and makes people want to show up because that's something that they can win. I will say probably my greatest gift as far as actually socializing this outside of my network, I'm from Austin. I have a lot of friends and I have family here. And so I think that probably mine was a little bit easier to build just because I do have a pretty good network here, right? But the biggest thing that changed mine was my friend Chris runs a social media account called When, Where, What Austin. And it has a very large following. It has over 500,000 followers, largely based in Austin. And so I asked him if he would get involved. And so every month he posts it starting on his story and then makes a post every Thursday or Friday right before the event. Okay, here's how you get involved. And so this has been something that's really helped with our attendance. People start by showing up one time because they saw the post, and then they come every month and they bring their friends, and it's largely word of mouth. And then the other piece of that is just at the events, right from the get-go, if I don't recognize someone, I go and talk to them, find out where they heard about this, and then, go try to find them at the end, ask them if they had a good time and if they'd be interested in coming again. And I think that's really helped. I see people show up once and then they're there every single month after, and it's been really awesome.
It sounds like you're building a community. How often do they say it was social media?
It depends on the month. I think the one where we had over 200, I bet 30% or more, maybe, of those were just from that social media post. It was good timing. It was around Valentine's Day, and I think a lot of people were looking to give, and we made different kind of special Valentine's Day posters for it and things like that. And I would say over 50 people probably just from the social media posts. I also run a Feed the City Austin Instagram. I'm just not very good at it, like he is, to be completely candid with you.
I keep telling my digital content manager, and I'm like, okay, I should probably think about this more and do more. And I really want to, because it's not about the podcast. It's about, I'm trying to highlight nonprofits, and the more visibility have on it, the better. But also, I don't use the Facebook. So yeah. I don't even know when people are liking anything and I need to lean into it for the better cause, if that makes sense. But the idea though of first starting this podcast was that I grew up actually not serving others and not really being involved. And I think as I became an adult and became independent and started having my children involved, I just said, wow, where is all of the information about all the nonprofits? Because there's so many here in Central Texas. How do we show up for them, and how do we find which one speaks to us, right? Because sometimes maybe a volunteer experience does feel like a chore, right? But maybe you go feed the city and you find your sense of community there. There's so many Austin Sunshine Camps. You go hang with the kids at summer camp, and that's your vibe. You want to, help the children. And there's just so many avenues, right? Animals, et cetera. And just showing people, how do they show up? What is expected of them? And then I think a big one is not requiring them to come at a regular rate, because some people get scared to commit. And so I think it's so brilliant that you're like, hey, just show up. And it could be the day before that it's posted, and it's here's when and where, and we want you here.
When, where, and what. And it's so easy. He posts it in his format. When, Bolden Acres, 10 a.m., what? bring 3 loaves of bread and some turkey and cheese, help your community and make an immediate impact. Can you take an hour and 15 minutes out of your week? And, people have kids' soccer games at 10 a.m. There is zero requirement. You can show up once, you can show up every month. It's an easy way to give back. And it's also just a great way to start your weekend. You feel good about yourself. One of the coolest things I've seen, actually, and you were talking about you have children, and I imagine you're trying to instill some of those values in them, is there's no age requirement. My friends with kids and just many families show up. I always get in the when, where, what posts. I have moms, oh, can I bring my 8-year-old, my 9-year-old? And I'm like, I love that. Let's get them started early so that they understand. One of the key things that I speak about is when we go and make these meals, I look around and I say, looking at this group, I bet none of us in the last week or two have been worried about where our next meal has come from, but we don't think about that. And that's just not the case for many, many Americans. There's about 50 million Americans right now with what we call food insecure, whether that is kids who don't know whether they're going to get a meal on the weekend because they don't get a government sponsored meal from school. Their parents are working multiple jobs, or they have some type of issues, or they're living with a grandma and there's 8 of them in one place. And so we are probably very blessed, and a bit of our responsibility, or just it's something that we can really give back and does make an immediate impact. That's kind of why I was so drawn to Tango and the Feed the City mission.
Yeah, I think the issue is Austin's much bigger than we'd like to give it credit. There are times where I'm driving and I'm like, we're still in Austin. I don't even know where I'm at right now.
100%.
And there are pockets where insecurity is much, much more common. So just because you can't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And I think that we should treat everyone in Central Texas and in Austin, in the greater Austin area, as our neighbors. So I love that what y'all are doing there. It's very cool. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about impact. I know every city has a leader. You're this downtown Austin leader, and all leaders are volunteer. Is that right?
Yep, absolutely. So 100% volunteer for all of the leaders.
And money that's raised goes back to the program and to the food and to the gloves and to the preparing the food. Is that right?
Yeah. Myself and Nick, we recently set up donation links. And the reason for that is because we were starting to have people like Chris with these larger social media presences. We realized a lot of people would say, oh, I can't make it this month. Is there somewhere that I would still love to help? And so I created a donation link, and 80% of anything donated on those goes directly towards our event, where I go and I do a huge shop and get somewhere between usually about 700 and 1,400 meals by myself. Everyone else brings their own, but 80% of the donations go to that. The other 20 go back straight to Tango Charities for operating costs, for exactly what you spoke about. Gloves so we can stay sanitary, Ziploc bags for the leaders. You need tablecloths and the other things that just come into operating costs. But yeah, almost everything goes directly back into just making meals in one way or another. It is really cool. I've seen other charity events where people don't know exactly when they see a donation link where things are going, and this goes immediately back into your communities. So I love that.
Yeah. Tablecloths, all that stuff. I think that's still going to the program, right? Because
well, if that's the case, then 100% goes straight into it. It is only the operating costs so that we can continue to run that. None is going to any individual people or anything like that.
Even Nick?
It's a 503c, so it's a nonprofit. Nick may have to take I don't think he takes a salary. I think he probably just puts it back into whatever. He manages all the budget. So we were going through deciding which kind of credit card to go through for the leaders, so that when people do donations, that they have prepaid cards that they can buy meals with and things like that. And while we're interviewing these different vendors, Nick is taking 2 different vans of Feed the City vans that he delivers meals with to go get registered, get washed, drop off at an event. The guy probably, outside of having a normal 50-hour-a-week job that pays for his bills and his family to eat, he probably does another 40 hours of every week with Feed the City and with Tango. So the guy is always busy, and he's really just doing the Lord's work for us out there. But yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to ask, is Nick being paid for this?
Yeah,
My point was to say, I don't think there's any salaries.
No, there's no salaries.
That's incredible. Just because there's some people that go, I want to know where my money is going to when I donate, right? Which
Totally.
is fair.
Yeah.
And it's all going back to the program. So I just want to make sure I understand this. So when you've made, say, this past Saturday, over 5,000 sandwiches, is that correct?
Yeah.
So how are you finding who needs this?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have actually partnered with 2 different organizations, one called Hungry Hill and one called Food for All. And this is like another great part about my event and how we've organized it. And this is something that I was pretty intentional about in setting up partners. They come at around 11:15 to 11:30. So we make sandwiches from 10 until 11:15, 11:30. We go take a picture. Sherry from Hungry Hill comes with a huge van and a lot of times has to have multiple vans in a truck depending on how many meals we have that month. But they come and pick this up and they talk about where this is going to go. The first place they take this, and this is really cool, is they take this up to Cedar Park to these volunteer bus drivers and any kids who are on government sponsored meals, who often we call them a gap meal. They don't get that on the weekend. They don't know necessarily where they're going to get lunch or dinner on a Saturday, right? And so the kids come out to these bus stops, I believe it's around 2 p.m. And the bus drivers go and drop all these meals off to kids who wouldn't get them. And then their next stop is at the women's shelter. And then anything that is remaining that doesn't go to those two buckets then goes to the nearest food bank to be handed out to anyone else in need.
Very cool. Yeah, I love that. Logistics. It seems like you've got it figured out. It takes a village.
Yeah, it definitely does. One of the things that I was very grateful for was some of this was already figured out as I was walking in. I had to figure out some of it. I had a relationship with the folks at Bolden Acres at our restaurant bar that we host the event. And so I was really lucky there. But I actually got involved before I started running my own event about, I guess just over 2 years ago. My friend Danny was running the South Austin event when we had it at a different location. And between a few of us, we figured out our partner organizations. And so by the time I started mine, it was already a machine and it was running really smoothly, which was nice because that's probably the most stressful part is, we have thousands of meals that need to get handed out. What do we do? Right. And so I know that can happen. And so we have a really good program with ours.
Very cool. And there's so many great food pantries around Austin. I love like Hungry Souls is really good in South Austin. And I know Westover Church. Anyway, there's so many good people that will distribute. And I don't know, is HEB, do y'all partner with HEB yet?
Yeah, so we've actually gone through and we're in the final stages. So myself, along with the help of one of our volunteers, because it's a little bit more paperwork than you would think, but you have to go through and put in your 503C information and all these things. And so we are finalizing our partnership with HEB. And I think that they're going to intend to, moving forward, be donating 1,000 meals a month. There are other, I believe Sun Harvest is also looking to do something similar. And so this is great for businesses. Also, there's a lot of times where bread only stays good for so long, but after about the first day, they would rather give it to someone where they know it'll be eaten than throw it away. And our promise to everyone who shows up to our events and any of our partners is if you make a sandwich, if you donate, those meals will be eaten in the next 24 hours after we make them.
Everyone around here loves HEB, and it's because of the investment they've put into their communities. And Courtney and I have had a separate segment in the past where we talked about how businesses show up and how corporations should show up. And I think that ROI over time with your branding and your reputation, clearly like with HEB and P. Terry's we've seen, it's a really positive ROI for those business owners out there to get involved.
Totally.
Okay, so I do want to hear a little bit about a story that you can share about Tango.
One thing that is really cool was, I guess it was February 2 years ago when I first came. I told you my friend Danny was the first one who told me about this, and he was running this South Austin event. It was at a different location at the time, but me and one of my closest friends showed up, and there was 6 of us, and we made 220 meals or something between us. And it was really fun. And we all had a beer after and we were talking about this. And I think like the cool thing that I've seen and, myself and a few others have been able to promote was even in the time, starting February then, I started showing up every month and I was able to help build that chapter to about 60 people within the first, maybe 6 months or so. And it goes back to like, I realized if you make it really easy, if you communicate clearly, like get the word out there, that you can get people involved fairly easily. And then watching it go from that to then I was introduced to Nick and Nick asked me if I wanted to lead my own chapter. And so I just started this event at the Zilker location in June of this last year. So I'm just coming up on a year. But during that time, now we've grown it to hundreds of attendees, many thousands of meals from 6 to, over 200 people who were involved. I brought 2 of my leaders up to Dallas for our award ceremony. And we were given one of the few awards, which is pretty awesome praise, but we won new event of the year out of the 52 chapters. And so, and especially only operating for 7 months, we were still like one of the events that had made and distributed the most meals out of all of them. And so I think that seeing that and the impact that you can have if you put your mind to it. And again, this is not a will thing. This is like, I have a bunch of good people who help and support, but it's been really awesome. It's really filled my cup emotionally to see how this has grown and the impact that we can make.
Yeah, congrats on that. That is
Thank
something
you.
to be celebrated.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Okay, now I have to pivot to what we call a good brag that has nothing to do with Tango. This can be anything from a small act of kindness to another nonprofit you lean into, to coaching, for a volunteer, whatever it is. Do you have anything you can share, Will?
Yeah, sure. I think I have something that, and I won't share my friend's name, but not too long ago, my friend was going through a pretty tough divorce and he found out that his wife had stepped outside the marriage. Anyways, it was a really terrible situation, but divorces, unfortunately, like they take a long time. So he was still having to live there. And so where I live, I had a really cool office that overlooked Lamar. And I fully intended to keep it that way, but I saw that he really needed this. I had just bought a new bed and I was going to donate or sell my other bed. I realized he was going through it. And so I turned my office into a spare bedroom. And my friend just ended up living basically in my second room with me for a good handful of months while he was like going through that time. And so it kind of jokes on me because that is now always a guest room, and my friends from out of town know that they can stay. And it's ended up having a ton of Feed the City supplies in it since, and has never turned back into my office. But it's something that I'll always look back on that I'm really glad I did. My friend is one of my very closest friends, is, eternally thankful, and it was something good to do.
We want to encourage volunteering. We want to encourage work with nonprofits. But sometimes the more important things are just your community and showing up for your friends and your family members. And I think that should always be first and foremost, to show up for people that you care about and have people around you know that they have people they can rely on. And that's very cool. Okay, love it. Let's turn the tables, give listeners a chance for good bragging rights. We have Downtown Awesome, which is yours, every second Saturday.
Exactly.
At what time?
Mine starts at 10 a.m. I ask people to be there by 9:45. And that is for a couple of reasons, largely because parking gets crazy with how largely the event has been attended. Molden Acres has a decent parking lot, but a lot of people have to go next door to the big garage. And so, really we start making sandwiches right around 10, and that's when I make the announcement.
Great. So your second Saturday, Round Rock is third Saturday, and South Austin is fourth Saturday. So 3 Saturdays out of the month, you can go and find a Feed the City event.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So if you live in Georgetown, it probably doesn't make sense to go to the South Austin one, and rock on if that's the only time that you can make it, and bummer to fight that traffic. But I think the cool thing about having 3 in the area is that you can find one probably within 15-20 minute drive of wherever you are.
Totally. Awesome. So we have that event. You also have the September event. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so September is our signature event. It's called Feed the Country. It is September 19th. Every leader for all of the events actually moves their event, regardless of which Saturday they would normally fall on, to that September 19th date. And so what we do is we actually get a lot of other organizations and volunteers involved. So we have our regular 52 leaders that will run their cities, and then we'll have additional volunteer organizations, have them for each of their cities. So we intend to have 100 and something cities involved in this Feed the Country event. I think we're trying to make 200,000 meals or something like that day. And so it's going to be really impactful for all of the communities that get involved.
Very cool. And that's September 19th.
Yep, exactly.
Show up if you want to help contribute to those numbers.
Yep. Yeah, we would love that. Another cool thing that Nick is actually doing coming up, I think it's already sold out because I think they only let 1,000 volunteers do this. But at Globe Life Stadium in Arlington, they're setting the Guinness Book of World Records for longest sandwich making line ever. And so I think they're going to make many thousands of meals that day in the stadium. Globe Life is one of our big partners for Tango Charities. And
see, that's a way to gamify it, right?
Totally.
You're trying to get on the world record. Are you going to be there?
I actually am not able to make it. I was hoping to. have this dang wedding. But yeah, otherwise I would certainly be there. And I think a lot of our leaders will. One thing that's cool about that is also, in this massive professional stadium, it's really cool. Nick and Tango had set the record prior for this same longest sandwich line 2 years ago. And then an organization in Australia went and beat that record last year. And so Nick said, hey, we've got to take it back. And so that's happening in June.
Cool. Awesome. I like what y'all are doing here. It's really neat, and want to make sure also that people know two more things. If you can't make the events, donate. You can still donate. And that clearly goes all back to the program. And follow y'all on social media.
Yes, absolutely. Google Feed the City or Tango Charities. It'll go straight to our sites. But feedthecity.atx on Instagram is our social media account. For my chapter, really, if you look on any of the major platforms, then you'll find it. Also, I think you spoke about this earlier, Stephanie, but how do people find out about these types of events? I'm interested to hear more. We have ours on Eventbrite. So all of the events are on Eventbrite. You can sign up through that. You don't even have to sign up, but it really just gives the people the time and location of where that is. What are other effective ways? I would love to know. And in trying to just get your idea out there, getting your event to the people and in front of them.
Gosh, anything just with like social media, talking to people. That's why I talk about these good brags is I think people should just go and talk to other people. Like you're at a dinner party, everyone's going to talk about a sports game or their remodel or their kid, their track meet that day or something. Definitely. Start talking about the good you're doing, right? Which is one of the reasons why I call them good bragging rights. But I don't know what the answer to that is.
Yeah, that's interesting. I bet that there could be a whole nother platform just for charity events and in your area.
So Will, you're talking about something I've been talking about with Courtney. We want to create a platform.
This is your opportunity.
We have been talking about it, that especially people who don't want to commit, they just want visibility and they want out of nowhere to go, you know what, next Saturday I'm free. What's there?
I will tell you, we certainly have our people who show up every month, but there's also just, I Googled charity event this Saturday and I saw it went to this Eventbrite page and yours popped up. I saw on When, Where, What or some social media post and was like, I can do that. And then brought their best friend.
So what actually really convinced me to do this podcast is the amount of times I saw on Reddit Austin, people going, where do I go to help? If all these people are asking, where do I go to help? And they're going to Reddit, we're not doing that good of a job, directing them to a platform where they can go find how to help. There is Give Pulse, and I have mixed reviews on that. Peace Park, I know, gets a lot of their volunteers through Give Pulse. But yeah, maybe are you ever interested in building a platform, Will?
I have about 30 minutes to spare every week. And so I'll let you know on that. But I have a question for you, if you don't mind.
Yes.
Just for the listeners, Stephanie ended up reaching out to me because I never really post on LinkedIn, but I posted on LinkedIn because I wanted to get more reach for Feed the City. And I posted about the event and said, hey, if you're interested, just shoot me a message. And she saw it. First of all, how did you end up even seeing my LinkedIn? Because I don't think we were connected.
I saw it because we do have a mutual connection who liked it. Cool. And that showed up in my feed. And I never see people talk about charity other than the nonprofits I follow on LinkedIn. So I was immediately interested.
No, I love that. I just didn't know if you were searching certain words with giving back or anything like that. And so that's really cool. So Stephanie reached out to me and I was immediately like, this is a really cool thing. I think really my question for you is, what gave you the idea to start this podcast? It sounds like you give back, you want your kids to give back. You and Courtney are big believers in these types of things, but what inspired you to actually start this program?
I think it really was from kind of a selfish desire of wanting to learn more about the nonprofits and figuring out what is my jam, and do other people kind of want to follow that journey and figure out what's their jam, like what are they interested in helping with. Court and I have talked about I Live Here, I Give Here, their Amplify Austin, and how people can kind of shop for their nonprofits that they want to be involved in, which is super cool. And I just can't believe how much giving is in Austin and how many nonprofits are here. And I felt like I was in the dark about it.
Yeah.
And so when I looked up podcasts, they were all just podcast geared to the audience was the nonprofit. The audience wasn't, hey, here's any average local person in Central Texas that wants to just listen on how can I give back, or scroll and see a nonprofit they might be interested in and listen to how can they show up. Sometimes going to a website, it can be daunting, like volunteer. Okay, well, I'm going to sign up for it. What does that mean?
It's like a year commitment.
Yeah. I think it can be intimidating. And I didn't realize how easy it was to give back until I started Young Men's Service League, or YMSL, with my son, which is a mother-son program where we serve a committed amount of, it's not much, it's 20 hours a year, but just seeing all the ways that we were able to do that and how nice it was to have that time with a teenage son who might not otherwise spend time with you. So
teenagers.
Again, there's a selfish component, not as selfish, but there is. And another thing is, one of my friends said, okay, I get your podcast, but what's in it for me? And she was being honest.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the world we live in, is we're all busy. I need to know that there's a little bit in it for me. I want to give back. I want that to be part of the way I live. I want to serve. But to your point, feed the city. There's a community component to it that you are getting something back.
I will tell you, and it's funny that you say this. So my friend Cooper, he has 2 kids. Son is almost a teenager. Daughter is full teenager. And they started coming. Originally, he was like, you guys should come to this. I want you guys to you guys should do this. But it was also very good because his daughter Lily needed community service hours for college application and some program she was in. Probably something similar to YMSL.
There's YMSL and there's like NJHS and there's
it's
NCL,
NJHS, exactly.
Right?
So that was what his daughter was in. And so he loves it because now his wife and his 2 kids come almost every month. Basically, if they don't have a sports game, then they'll be there. And it's time that he just gets to sit with his daughter and his son at a table, and they actually get family time where it's less distracted, because in the world we live in, it's pretty easy to not end up having dinner together every night, or the kids on the iPad, or they want to go run off with their friends. And this is something that you could really get to spend that time. It's just a great way to meet. I would say the other things is, if anyone is just moving to Austin, and gosh, it is such a transplant city at this point. I'm from here, but I've seen, so many of my friends have moved from all over the country and even outside of the country here. If you're just moving to Austin, this is such a great way to meet good people.
Totally agree.
My ultimate goal, and this is very selfish, but I am an ordained officiant. I'm an ordained minister. I've officiated a handful of weddings for my friends.
So you don't just attend the weddings, you're officiating.
Yeah, exactly. This one, I'm not coming up, but I've done this for a good handful of my friends. And so my ultimate goal is 2 people meet at Feed the City, and then I officiate their wedding, because then that would be the ultimate this worked.
Okay, let's make it happen. And what I am finding about my audience is a lot of older women. That's a big part of my audience. Think about your children who are maybe growing into this stage of life where they need to start dating. Go send them. I know everyone wants to send, just go meet someone in church, but that can be a smaller population. Go just get out there and start giving in different events and feed the city, and let Will officiate your marriage.
That's right. Yeah, no, it's really cool, because it's like there are a lot of just good, like-minded people that show up and want to give back. And so it's a lot of really awesome folks, and it's everyone from families to high school kids who show up. I had a high school kid, Clyde, who did this whole project and raised a bunch of money, and then now has been using that to help subsidized. I think he brought 400 meals this last time, just him and one of his friends. And he went to Austin High, which is where I went. And I was like, man, I wish I was this involved whenever I was in high school. And so
same. I see it too. I'm amazed.
So we have high school kids, we have big families, we have everywhere in between. We have a lot of, 20 and 30-year-olds, whether they're with their significant other or they're single and out there. But it is a really cool place to just go and make friends and meet people.
Yeah. And I think of this, look, Austin's fun. You can go out and easily see music and grab drinks anywhere and everywhere all the time.
Sure.
But sometimes I think if this is what you think is part of your values, or you want to build these values, go find other like-minded, cool people that are fun, but also share those same values. You're guaranteed to find them in events like this. I just think it's so cool. And the last thing I'll say also is, Courtney, I've also had a segment about the loneliness epidemic, and especially spotlighting young men right now and loneliness and needing a sense of purpose. Your sense of purpose should not come from just capitalism and how much money you make, right? Let's put our sense of purpose, and not just the clothing we wear or the aesthetics, but into the impact we make on this world.
100%. I couldn't say it better. It's been really interesting reading about that loneliness epidemic and kind of how that shifted. But I think that getting involved in your community is a great way to combat that in a really healthy way. I do have one last question, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
Okay,
Of
so,
course.
I lead this event. I lead this Feed the City event. You, on a very regular basis, speak to other leaders within charity events. I guess two-part question. Is there anyone who you would suggest that I meet that has really built theirs in a great way or could help promote this? And then the second part of that is, are there any really good tactics that you've seen for people to have their event be well attended or just have an overall larger impact? Because you probably have a lot of these conversations.
I think one other thing Courtney and I have talked about is that there's a lot of nonprofits in Austin kind of either doing similar things or taking different pieces of the vertical, right? Yeah. And so like an example would be foster care. Totally. Some people are doing the packs when they first have to be sent to a foster home, right? Those care packs. And then some people are doing wraparound services while they're living in the foster care home. And some people are doing, they grow out of foster care and we still need to serve these people, right? I don't know how those nonprofits are talking and how they're navigating that together because they're all tackling different pieces of the same issue. Similarly, Courtney has talked about Susan B. Komen and the research. There's two nonprofits that they were even questioning, should they merge, right? Almost like an M&A question, right? Yeah. I don't necessarily think that needs to happen. I think there's something very special about a lot of these nonprofits that are supporting and trying to fill in the hole for food insecurity, especially for children. But I think talking to each other, there's a few food pantries that I think you guys should be connected with. And Absolutely. I think that would be a great thing. Junior League does fit. That's where every Friday they send a little bag of goodies, and it's not going to be sandwiches. It's going to be snacks and cereal, things that don't need to be eaten in 24 hours, sure. right? So y'all are filling a different need. Totally. So I think just having those conversations with those other nonprofits and then getting ideas from each other is brilliant versus seeing each other as like some type of competition. It's very rare that I see like an ego at play, right? And mostly it's pretty collaborative space. And then the second, in terms of what the question was about how to make that impact greater. Is that like strategies to make that impact greater? Is that right, Will?
Yeah. I was just seeing if you've heard any other folks that you've spoken to who have really had incredible strategies about how to increase their impact or grow the attendance of their event or whatever that may be.
I think different strategies work for different nonprofits. Like I said, I think Peace Park said that they get a lot of their volunteers through being listed on GivePulse, sure. right? And I think also just being connected to leagues like YMSL. I mean, YMSL would be a great example where you get all these young men. You're not going to guarantee all of them, but you give them that space and they get credit for it. So those types of things. And NCL is National Charity League is the girls' version. And so I think just getting plugged in and connection is everything. Again, like I said, every time, like LinkedIn, when I saw your post, I think people should also feel more comfortable in LinkedIn and career spaces to talk about giving back.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I didn't even think about LinkedIn. One of my friends actually encouraged me to do that. And I did get multiple people messaged me, including you, which was great. But no, I think that's great advice. Shameless plug here. If you do want any community service hours, I will sign off on 3 hours of community service if you show up to any of my events. So this is a great way to do that, whether it's for college applications or whatever that may be.
And I love that. I have said, force your kids, right? Yeah. Because then they'll start enjoying it. And I make it enjoyable. I'll give you just a quick example. And I've mentioned this in past pods, but my son and I, it's our time together. So we listen to our history podcast on the way there. And then we always get like tacos or pizza or something afterwards. Yep. And that's our time together. That's right. Cool. And so I do think requiring something and then making it a fun event will really teach your children and teach young people, if you're in your 20s, start leaning in and you're going to get something out of it.
100%. I think it is also, and I know we spoke about this before, but just like kids get obsessed with football or Xbox or whatever it may be. I think it's really easy, especially when you're a teenager, to lose sight of some of the greater picture. Like you talked about, it's very easy in Austin to not think about those who are less fortunate. There are big pockets of Austin that really don't have to worry about where their next meal is coming from, but starting to instill those values in your kids, but like also just making sure that they understand how blessed they are and they're not worried about their next video game as much. Maybe if they see that people who live 3 miles away are not sure whether they're going to get lunch or not.
Absolutely. I will tell you, going to a Feed the City event would open their eyes. The one event that opened my son's eyes was Drive a Senior and going to their apartments to deliver on their birthday.
That's cool.
And one senior said, hey, I haven't eaten out in a restaurant. And we said, we're going to take you out to breakfast. And she was like, wow, this is amazing. And so he got to see like, wow, people don't get to eat out at restaurants. And it's a beautiful world. There's a need for you and you can feel a sense of purpose by going and helping.
100%.
Yeah. Well, this has been so much fun.
Yeah.
Everyone show up second Saturday, downtown Austin, and follow, what is your Instagram?
It's feedthecity.atx.
And your friend's Instagram?
When, where, what. Yeah,
When, where, what.
Austin.
Also go support him because he clearly supports the good that's being done in Austin. Very cool. Okay, thanks, Will.
Hey, thank you, Stephanie. Really appreciate you having me on.
What I love about Will, which is the same thing that I love about Courtney Dickey, is that he's not a full-time nonprofit professional. He has a job, he has a life, and he still shows up every month to make sure hundreds of people in Austin get a meal, and he leads the thing. Everyone around him is doing the same thing. They're regular people, busy people who decided that wasn't a good enough reason to not show up. And the beauty of Feed the City is that you don't need to clear your calendar to sign up for a committee. You just show up on a Saturday morning, third Saturday at Bolden Acres and South Lamar. There's locations in Round Rock, South Austin. If that's closer to you, bring a friend that you've been meaning to see, make it your thing. The months go fast, and this is a pretty good reason to stop letting them slip by. There is a place for you, and you can start building your community with Tango Charities. Thank you, Will Mattingly, for the time and the fun conversation. Thank you to Nightlight Insurance Agency for sponsoring this podcast and your generous donation to Tango Charities. Todd Thompson for your brilliant editing and mixing. Ashton O'Neill for your digital content management. Graham Thompson for the music. And Jess Pusher Chord Studios for making this possible. We'll see you next month as we escape into a cause.